We're on Daf Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis. That means page 236. It's the last shiur of Igeres HaKedesh Yud Beis. Igeres HaKedesh Yud Beis, as I explained to you on Sunday, talks about the inyan of Shalom, peace. But he brings two inyanim of Shalom in Igeres HaKedesh Yud Beis. The first is Shalom between Tov and Ra, between good and evil, which is only down here. And the second is Shalom between Mechol and Gavriel, between Chesed and Gevura, which is Lamailo. And as I explained to you, that Shalom between Malachim, Chesed and Gevura is not nearly as kitzoni, as opposite, as Shalom between Tov and Ra. Tov and Ra is Hofchi and Mamish, this is good and evil. Chesed and Gevura are both good. One is Gilui and one is Tzimtzum. So the Rebbe brings a pasuk that says, so first the Rebbe goes into the yin of Shalom and he explains that Shalom happens through a Gilui of Ein Sof and so forth. He brings a pasuk. V'haya Maisa Shalom, Maisa Tzedakah Shalom. You do tzedakah on the level of Maisa, you create Shalom. Translates the Rebbe. Maisa Tzedakah means doing Shalom, Chesed according to the Teva Vayid. By Yid, Chesed is B'Teva. V'haya Maisa Tzedakah Shalom. If a person gives tzedakah according to his Teva, he makes Shalom. But the Shalom is effective only b'pamal yeshal maila. It's effective over there, it's not effective down here. It's effective to make Shalom between Bechol and Gavri, between Chesed and Gevura. It's not effective to make Shalom between Tov and Ra. And he's going to explain to us that when you do Avodas HaTzedakah, and Avodas HaTzedakah means you're going tzedakah beyond your Teva, you're breaking your Teva, so it becomes a hashkev. The Alter Rebbe is saying that you could make Shalom between Tov and Ra, but that means between the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Ra, even down here. If you remember, the Alter Rebbe said that Shalom between Tov and Ra, first of all, can only be La'aseh, the Mashiach comes. Then he says it could also be now, but only at special times, like when a person is davening. And now he's going to add that when you give tzedakah bli gvul, it affects that there should be a Shalom between Tov and Ra, even now, which sounds sort of like an inyan of tzaddik. So now let's read it inside. This is the pshat in the pasuk. V'haya ma'isa tzedakah. When a person gives tzedakah according to his nature, this is called ma'isa tzedakah, the act of tzedakah. Shagam hatzedakah nikra b'shem ma'isa. Even when a person does tzedakah on a level which is called ma'isa, v'lei b'shem avodah, the person is not working that hard, because he's not giving tzedakah in changing his nature, but rather is giving tzedakah according to his nature. Nevertheless, your arousal from below and giving tzedakah according to your teva affects that the Eibush should give an arousal from above, that it is me'eded, it wakes up Gilui Eidin say Baruch Hu, a revelation of the Ein Sof with a great radiation, Vashpo Atzuma, and a very intense flow, that and you create peace amongst the malach, l'maylo, between Chesed and Gevura. Then he says, even in the lower realms you also make Shalom. In this lowest world, you cannot reveal the peace, because of course you cannot reveal the vahabirur, the clarity or clarifying of klipa, separating the evil from the good, so that the Ra also becomes Shalom with Tev, Ades Ketz till the end of times. And that in times of Goals we mentioned before. So you can make Shalom Lamaila. You could make Shalom Lamata, but not Nelam Hazeh, because the Shalom Lamata is not between Bimreimov, it's not between Chesed and Gevura, it's between Tev and Ra, good and evil. Shalom between good and evil in this world can't happen until Mashiach comes. Rak, however, Ba'ilam Katnu Adam, in the small world which is the person, in special times when a Jew davens, the Jew can be like a tzaddik, right? The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perigid Beis that during davening Yetzer Hara goes to sleep, the ben is like a tzaddik. The Alter Rebbe is saying here that when you give tzedakah, even if you're only giving tzedakah according to your teva, during davening it could be effective to make shalom down here in this world. As the pasuk says, "B'tzedek echsa panecha kanal." Through tzedakah you can see the pnimius of Elokus. You can see Gilui Elokus, which makes shalom between Tov and Ra. In other words, there's possibility for you to feel like a tzaddik during davening because of the tzedakah that he gave. Now, feeling like a tzaddik means that there's peace between Tov and Ra because it's a special time. But after the davening, it's conceivable that Hara should be Chezev and Er Bakal. The evil will reawaken very easily. Ulehis Arev Bitoiv, and remingle with the good. Kasher Yishalech B'chesh as long as we walk in the darkness of Elam Haz. In other words, we don't have to do anything special. So that after our davening, the Hara should be Chezev and Er. During davening, a person is in a Maimed Matzev, special. So even though he only gave tzedakah according to his teva, during davening, his heart is sort of asleep. So it's a bechina of shalom in this world. But as soon as you finish davening, with very little effort, in other words, very negativity, the Yitzhara comes back. But that's only when a person is doing tzedakah on a level of maisa. And tzedakah on a level of maisa is according to the teva of a Jew. Now I mentioned this to you on Sunday, I want to mention it again, that even the word maisa also has a connotation of kfiyah. You guys learned Bava Basra last year. So in the first perek of Bava Basra, you speak about Inat Tzedakah, and you have Loshon HaShas, me'asin al tzedakah. God la'maisa yesem min ha'iseh. That there's an inyan of forcing people to give tzedakah. The word asiyah also has a connotation, has an intent of kfiyah, of force, but it's not changing your nature, it's according to your nature. So now the Alter Rebbe says, that's all ma'isa tzedakah. Achat tzedakah b'bchinas avodah, when a person gives tzedakah on a level which is called work, which means that he's breaking his nature and he's giving tzedakah bli gavo. Hine me'asher yikara ve'godla ma'alos made since it's so precious and great is this level of giving tzedakah to the degree which is called aveda. Because he is mevatel tivei uretzeinei hagufni, he's breaking his nature and his will which is physical. Mipnei ratzonali yimbarach for the will of the Rebbeinu. In other words, he's going beyond his teva. Because you're not just being kind according to your teva. You're pashat breaking your teva. You have the classic lashon of Tanya Perikov Zayin, which is of course in the Mayim Basi Lagani, because you're breaking your nature, you're doing an infin eskafi of Azai. So then, it causes a gilui b'bchinas reivim mosav alakus. In other words, you bring down a save of kalam. When you do tzedakah, where you're breaking your nature, you bring from eskafi, you bring down gila alakus from a very high level. And of course you're breaking your nature, and the nature has to do with the nefesh habahamis. So when you break your nature, you're getting the extra light from the nefesh habahamis itself. So the Alter Rebbe ilazes, and as a result, for Yid davens, before davening he gives tzedakah, but he doesn't give tzedakah on the level of asiyah, which is his nature. But he gives tzedakah on the level of avodah, where he's breaking his nature. When you finish your davening, you remain al derech inyan of tzaddik. You finish davening. Because you get tzedakah to Mesiras Nefesh, you remain in a maimed of matzev, where the tev and the ra are at peace, which means the ra has been defeated and mavurer. Rak, it'll only come back. Im ha'adam ye'erenu v'yamshichenu al atzmei chas v'shalom. The ra will come back if you bring it back onto yourself. But by itself, it will not come back. Haste is azay. That Rebbe is saying a very interesting thing. When you give tzedakah according to your limits, so during davening you're inspired, after davening is nothing. When you give tzedakah beyond your limits, it's conceivable that after the davening you can remain in the maimed of matzev, where the tev and ra are together in a maimed of matzev of peace, until you want to bring the Yetzer Hara back. It's a chiddush nifla. Therefore, when it comes to avodas tzedakah, when a person is giving tzedakah on a level where he's breaking his nature, it doesn't say shalom. It says hashket vavetach adelim. Yeah, when you give tzedakah according to your nature, it's shalom. Shalom means b'pamalya shalmaila, and b'pamalya shalmata beruch needs not begashmis. But when you give tzedakah on a level of avedas, like Dal Terev, that should hashket vavetach ad elam. Sheket means quiet. Betach means trust and secure ad elam forever. All right, you know how sometimes ad elam is translated? Ad elam, till this world, all the way till down here. In other words, hashket, what does quiescence mean? What does quiet mean? So he says, it's the idea of being silent over the shmorim, over the residue, over the sediment. The hainu, this means, the sediments, the residue, separates completely from the wine, and fall together to the bottom altogether. The wine above remains zach, pure, v'tolol, and transparent, clear. Betachas, absolutely, right? When you have wine in a barrel, what do? You let the wine sit, and the sediments settle to the bottom, and then when you remove it, you're careful not to stir up the bottom. It's still there, but it's separate. So he translates hashket lashon sheket al shmorav. because you've given tzedakah with the Mesiras Nefesh, the good has risen to the top, and the evil has fallen to the bottom. So there's an inyan of shalom between Teiv and Ra, even in a Beinani, even in a Elam. Right? When a Jew gives tzedakah on a level called Aveda. Hashmarim, the residue, the waste. Hein bechinas to do with it, which is the mixture of evil. Shabanaf, which is in a person's soul, which we call a nefesh abahamis. Nivre v'nifred is clarified and separated ma'at, little bits at a time. Achenefel lamata, that it falls below l'mekedi v'shasha, to its root. To its source. And its root, it says in the Teire v'tash lech b'mitzu leis yam kol chatesim, that sins are sent to the depth of the sea, because that's the place of Ra, all the way down at the abyss, all the way down at the bottom. So when a person does talk at the level of Aveda, to say that he's a tzaddik, that he has no Ra, is not true. That'll only be Lasud Lavi. But to say that the Ra has been sufficiently separate from the Tev, that it's fallen to the bottom, and therefore, unless he wants to, he could serve Hashem almost like a Bechin of tzaddik, this is true. So the Alter Rebbe in this Igeres HaKedesh taught us two madreges of tzedakah, and it brings about two madreges of shalom. Tzedakah beteva, tzedakah which is iskafia, and the difference is the shalom happening only l'mayla, or the shalom happening also l'mata. This is the end of Igeres HaKedesh Yud Beis.